This video is on one-sided limits, and there are 3 examples in case you would like to fast forward or rewind. So for example, or I should say graph number 1, we have 2 different limits. It would like to know the limit of the function as x goes to 0 from the right. Again, a plus sign in the exponent is telling us the direction in which it's going in. So it wants us to go from the right-hand side. So if I look at the function, I'm going to start at the right-hand side, jump onto the function, and I'm going to follow it all the way until I get to 0 on the x-axis. So I'm going to keep going and stop. What I am getting close to is the number 1 on the y-axis. So the answer is 1. The limit of the function as we get closer to 0 from the right is 1. Now let's go in the left direction. And I know I'm going in the left direction because the exponent is negative. So they want to know the limit of the function as x goes to 0 from the left side. So again, my goal is to stop at 0, but this time I'm going from the left side of the function. So jumping onto the function from the left, following it all the way to 0, and I get closer and closer and closer to 1 on the y-axis. The answer is 1. Sometimes our answers will match and sometimes they will not. In this case, the limit from the right and the left side both were going to the positive 1 on the y-axis. Now let's look at example number 2. In example number 2, notice that my functions here look more like a piecewise, where I have a separate function on the bottom and a separate one from the top. So I'm going to be writing out 2 examples. The first one is going to be the limit of the function as x goes to 1 from the right. And the second one I want to find is the limit of the function as x goes to 1 from the left. So notice that the positive in the exponent tells me I'm going to go from the right-hand side. I'm going to jump on that function, and I'm going to stop at positive 1 on the x-axis. So I'm going to follow this function, and when I stop, I'm getting closer and closer to 4 on the y-axis. The answer is 4. Now I'm going to do the one below it. The limit of the function coming from the left side because I see a negative in the exponent. So here I am, the far left, jumping on the function. And I'm going to go all the way until x gets to 1. So follow there from the left and stop, and I'm getting closer and closer and closer to 2 on the y-axis. The answer is 2. So notice for graph number 2, the limit from the right and the limit from the left are not the same. So we call these, that's why these are one-sided limits, because I'm either coming from the right side or the left side. The last example is example number 3. In example number 3, we're going to be using the graph all the way down here. Notice there's a lot more going on in graph number 3. So we're going to write down 3 different questions here. I want to know the limit of the function as x goes to -3. And I want to go from the left side and see what that answer is. I also want to find the limit of the function as x goes to 0 from the right side. And last, I'm going to find the limit of the function as x goes to 3 from the right. So the first thing I'm going to do is pay attention. Am I coming from the left or the right? The negative in the exponent tells me I'm coming from the left side. So I'm going to start on the left side. And where is my stopping point? -3 on the x-axis. So here is -3 on the x-axis. Jumping on the function, and I'm going to go all the way until I get to -3 on the x-axis, and I'm getting closer and closer and closer to 3 on the y-axis. The answer to this is 3. Next up, I'm going to see if I'm coming from the right or the left. Checking that exponent, I'm coming from the right side. I'm going to go all the way until x gets to 0. So here is 0. So jumping on the right, and I'm following the function, have not gotten to 0 yet, so I got to keep going. So I'm going to go from function on the right to the function in the middle, and I'm jumping on it, and I'm going to keep going and stop until I get to 0 on the x-axis. I'm getting closer and closer to -1 on the y-axis. And the last one we're doing is coming from the right side again, positive in the exponent, and I'm going to stop where 3 is on the x-axis. 1, 2, 3. And we're going to see where we get super close to. So coming from the right side, jumping onto this function again, and following the function until I get to 3 on the x-axis. Looks right about here. So I'm going to put that arrow, and it looks like I'm getting closer to -2 on the y-axis. Notice none of these match, and I'm going to different locations on the x-axis. So the biggest things to pay attention to is, should you go from the left side or the right side? Then pay attention to where your stopping location on the x-axis is. And the limit is where we are approaching the y-axis.